What's up, everybody? If you're watching this, then you have purchased the Will Academy 2.0. This is the method how to use the Will Major Trend and how to accurately catch trending trades and how to get funded using just this simple method. So if you guys watched the Will Cash Money template already, that video shows you how to catch buys and sells. This video is going to show you how to catch accurate trades only, meaning trending trades only, okay? So when you have the Will Major Trend set up, every time you get a red arrow, it's gonna always say every time. Well, basically in a when the Will Major Trend is red and you get a blue arrow, it's gonna always say potential buys. But as long as this is red, then you already know all sales are valid. So you pretty much ignore that blue arrow you get, unless the whole indicator turns blue. This is not a uptrend, okay? So unless you get it to turn close blue, you always take sales. So this will get you funded really fast. This will get you um, easy money, and it works for all pairs. So you're able to use this on all pairs. Any pair you want to use this on, it will work accurately every time. I have the RSI here so you can spot divergence, okay? You can use divergence to get in a trade as well. That's another entry. I also explains that these yellow bands here are entry bands. That is another entry of aggressive, okay? And the reason why I say aggressive because you're not waiting for the Will Trincator to close red. If you enter at the entry bands, you will always 99% of the time, you will have, I would say 95% of the time, you will have a high entry for sales and a buy and lower entry for buy. So when you guys see me have those sniper entries, I'm using my entry bands. I personally trade it aggressively once I see the setup. I don't wait for the Will Trincator unless it hit. If it hit my entry bands, I'm gonna enter right away. If it don't, I'm gonna enter with the Will Trincator. So here we could clearly see that the Will Major Trend is red. So we already have the knowledge to only take sales when it comes to GJ right now. So we're all the way back May 22nd. So we're gonna see. So we're gonna wait for all the. If you guys watch the Will Cash Money video, you already understand how this works. So all the EMAs go above the Will Street. It hit the entry bands here. This is where I would enter my trade with a 25 pip stop loss. I'm gonna break even at 50 pips. I'm gonna target 100 pips. So why am I taking this trade? Because I can clearly see my Will Major Trend is red. So I want to stay within the trend. That's what this indicator will help you with every single time accurately, okay? So it's going to save you from taking false signals because you have to wait till all the EMAs to go above your Will Street to take the sell anyway. So the odds of you getting faked out is really rare, okay? So it's always rules intact that I create for you guys so you're not taking the wrong trades and you're following the rules. So we already see that the Will Major Trend is red, all right? And we also see that's the first rule, okay? We're trading whatever the color of the Will Major Trend is. That's the trades that we're looking for, okay? So once we see that, the second rule, all EMAs must go above the Will Street here. That's the second rule that we need to see. So for entry, if we see price hit the entry bands, we can enter right there. That is a solid sniper entry. The reason why we can enter right there on those bands because that is the highest point the market should go. So that's why the reason why this is aggressive is because we're not waiting for the Will Trincator to close red. But 95% of the time, your entry will be sniper when you wait for these rules. So when you guys see me enter a market and you see that the market immediately goes in my favor, that's because I'm entering right at the entry bands. I normally don't enter off the Will Trincator unless price hits my entry bands. If price have not hit my entry bands, then my entry would be the second bar of the Will Trincator. Okay, so understand that you have two entries. Well, you have three different entries. First entry could be the Will entry, the entry bands. The second entry could be divergence, which we see divergence here. Here's a high, here's another high. We can see the RSI did a lower high, Y did a high, so that could be another entry. So you have three entries: entry bands, divergence, or Will Trincator closing red. So always keep that in mind, and you will always see double tops being created. So keep that in mind. You have three different entries: Entry bands, which will be the highest for sells, the lowest for buys. Divergence, that's another entry that you can enter if you miss the entry bands. And the last entry is the Will Trincator closing red. So if you can see, if we entered at any one of these points, the Will Trincator closes red here, 25 pips up, break even at 50 pips, 100 pips is always yours, okay? So understand that. You can get out this market as whenever you want, but when you're trading for funded accounts, you want to stick within those rules. So right here, it hit 96 pips. So if I know that I'm going for 100 pips and I see that the market is struggling to do 4 more pips, I'm going to exit out that trade and just take 95 pips. That's common sense. Break even at 50 pips, 100 pips is your target. If market chokes around 95 pips and is struggling to give you the other 5 pips, take the 95 pips. Don't worry about it. So example here, we would have saw that we was 96 pips in profit. The moment we saw the market struggles to get that extra 4, 5 pips or whatever is missing, we just take what the market give us and we exit the trade, and that's how we exit that trade. So we can see here, we get the arrow here. It's gonna say potential buy coming up. That arrow is not valid unless it turns blue. So right here, it turns blue right here, okay? It turns blue. So when it turns blue, we're gonna identify that all the EMAs, this doesn't count. So when it turns blue, now we are waiting for all the EMAs to go underneath the Wall Street. So here, right here, boom, we get an entry right here. Once all the EMAs went up underneath the Wall Street here, now we have two type entries. We can look for divergence, or we can look for we can wait for the Will Trincator to close blue. So right here, it closed blue. This will be our entry here. Okay, 25 pips up, breaking even at 50 pips, and here the market goes 80 pips up. We automatically know to exit this trade. That's another reason. That's another thing, guys. When a sell setup comes, when you're holding your trade, this is where you would exit at, and you would get out of this trade about 80, 70 pips. So that would have been a nice entry. So you already up on the prop firm account about, let's say, if I do the math here, that first entry was 95 pips. This would be 80 pips. So we caught 175 pips within 3 days, within those 3 days. And on a 200K account, if you was using an $80 lot size, you would be up 14,000 already, and you'll be almost about to pass the challenge in 2 trades. So in the 200K, I gave you guys the numbers. Whatever account size you buy, that's the lot size you use. You're always going to risk 1% to win 4%. This is how you're going to get funded easy, okay? So understand the reason why we exit that trade, because the sell setup come. Why do we enter the trade? Because we notice here we got the buy arrow, potential buy coming up. It closes blue. It's going to say confirm buys. We're going to wait for all the EMAs to go underneath the Wall Street. Here it happens. We're going to either enter off of the entry bands, which we would have missed this entry here, but we would have noticed all the EMAs are above. So the last entry will be when the Will Trincator closes blue. So this will be your entry with actually a 27 pip stop loss, because you have to include the spread. Right here, we would have broke even. Here we would have been exiting because the sell setup comes, and that would have been a winning trade, and this would have been your funding trade for Myforexfunds, FTM, or whatever you want to call it. This would be your winner for Myforexfunds. This will be a winning trade for you to pass that first phase. So here we know that the Willmajortrend is still blue. Yes, we have the arrow hit potential sell. Ignore that arrow if your Willmajortrend is still blue. All buys are still powerful. So what makes this really, really good for you guys, because you're only taking trending trades, and it's going to always work 95% of the time, you will win the trade. So we see that we have our first rule intact. So we know the last rule to start finding entry, all EMAs must go under the Wall Street. So once we see that the Will Trincator is still red. So the first entry that we already know and we already aware of is the entry bands. So here we could aggressively enter there with a 27 pip stop, breaking even at 50 pips. 100 pips is ours. If you miss that entry, this will be when your Will Trincator closes blue. So here would be your entry with a 27 pips. Okay, so that right there entering off of the Will Trincator, you would have taken a loss. But remember, you're risking 1% to make 4%. So taking a loss is fine. So if you didn't enter on the entry bands and you enter on the Will Trincator, it's cool because I'm going to show you guys how to get back in this trade. So once you lost the 1%, you have 3 more tries. Well, actually 4 more tries to be broke even. So how are we going to get back in this? Well, we can see here that divergence happened on the RSI. Here's a low point. Here's another low point. After this closing bullish candle, we can see that the RSI made a higher low. So that's another entry that we could have got in with a 27 pip stop, and we could have caught that entry. If you wasn't able to spot divergence, then you would get back in when your Will indicator closes blue again. This will be your entry. 27 pip stop loss again, breaking even at 50, 100 pips is yours. So even with that loss, if I do the math here, and I do that loss, I take away 2,000 because that's how much you would lose on a 200K account. You would lose 2,000, and it would have took us back at 12,000. Remember, for Myforexfunds, you only need to make 16,000 in 1 month, which is 8% of the account. So that's 12,000, and we catch the 100 pips. We times that by 80 will be 8 grand plus 1,200. 12,000, that'd be 20,000. So you would have already been out the market. Once price hit 16,000, you closed the trade, you completed first phase. You completed that phase. So yes, we won 3, and we lost 1, and we still was able to stay profitable 20,000. So it'd be the same thing on a live account. So in 3 trades, you was able to make 20 grand. You don't need to trade them more that month. You made 20% on the account. You made 20% of your account on the live account, but that is how you would have passed the first phase, winning 3 trades, losing 1. You still was able to pass FTMO and Myforexfunds within those trades. So we're basically understanding the rules. So here again, all the EMAs go underneath again, okay? So look, all the EMAs go underneath. Your Willmajortrend is blue. So remember what I told you guys. You can enter off of the double bar of the Will Trincator. So here will be your entry, 27 pip stop, break even at 50, and you can see the market hit the 100 pip mark. And this happens over and over again. So people say, Will, how can I not get faked out? You can never get faked out because you understand that the Willmajortrend is still blue. So with it being still blue, you are only taking buys. That saves you so much because you're not taking sells, you're only taking buys. You're only following what color the Willmajortrend is. The only time you go opposite to take sells when it closes red. That's when you start taking sales. So here would have been another winning trade. This would have been another winning 100%, 100 pip move. So you guys can see how easy it is to pass and get funded. So that would have been 100 pips. So understanding, taking all trades, whatever color the Willmajortrend is what's important. So here, again, all the EMAs go underneath here. If it's already blue, guys, you have to wait until it turns red and blue. That's when you get the nice entries. So here would have been entry here, and that looks like a break even. Yep, it went 50 pips, so this would have been a break even trade. But that doesn't mean that this trade is over. So if you would have entered at the entry bands, this probably would have been another loss. Yes, it would have been a loss, but it's okay. Okay, you would have took a loss at the entry bands, and you would have got back in when the Willmajortrend closes blue again, and you would have put another 27 pip stop, breaking even at 50 pips here, making that 100 pips. So you guys can see risk management is how you're going to stay funded and make a lot of money because you understand the rules, how to get back in if you take a loss, and how to stick within risk management. Risk management is going to get you through everything. Don't be surprised if you pass the trade in 4 trades. If you pass the phase in 4 trades, phase 2 if you pass it in 2 trades. So understand risk management is how you're able to complete the challenges, okay, is how you stay funded. Now, when you get funded, you do not change what got you funded. You continue to do the same thing over and over again. Pick the pair you want to trade. GJ is my favorite pair. It respects everything perfect. You know, you might catch a loss here and there, but understand the risk to reward is how you stay in the game, and it's how you're able to accept losses, knowing that you're risking 1% to make 4%. The odds of you losing 4% is very, very rare. I have never experienced it. I have never went down a lot of percent. never really took any major loss to worry about because my risk management is how I stay in the game and how I stay profitable. So you guys can see through all these loss, we took 2 losses in the mass trade and won 4 trades, and we're still up big. So here the Willmajor trend is still blue. So what that tell us? We're still bullish. All the EMAs go underneath. The wood trincator is red, which is perfect. We would have entered here because we understand the rules. So when it's blue, we only need to wait for all the EMAs to go under the Will Street and the Will Trincator closes blue. So here would have been entry, 27 pips stop, breaking even at 50 pips, and 100 pips is ours. Easy, easy money. Then we get another setup here. All the EMAs are underneath. Will Trincator closes blue. We enter the trade. We break even at 50 pips. 100 pips is ours. So you guys can see how easy it is. It is super, super easy. So here we get a potential sell. We only ignore those until the Will Trincator closes red. Until the Willmajortrend is red. So now that the Willmajortrend is red, now we know that we are only looking for sales, and it's literally that easy, guys. It's so simple and so easy to catch these moves. You could also use your 200 on the alligator to guide you in. Okay, after all the EMAs are above the Will Street. So we see Willmajortrend is red. So we already know sales only. So when you're doing trend trades, this is the result you're going to get. You're going to get accurate trades over and over and over again. And the will catch money template is what's going to get you in the market, because that tells you when the market is overbought, when the market is oversold. So you just put it together and it's almost impossible to lose. Okay, so here all the EMAs go above. So we already know. First rule, Willmajortrend is red. Second rule, all EMAs must go above the Will Street. Once that is in play, the only entry we have is when the Will Trincator closes red. So we enter 27 pip stop, breaking even at 50 pips. This did not do 50 pips, so we do not break even. Stay true to that break even, because if you don't, you could get stopped. You could get break even to get hit, and then this will happen to you. So that would have been a 100 pip move, easy. Okay, so here it is again. All the EMAs go above the Will Street. We already know that we're looking for what? Sales, because the Willmajortrend is red. So here we would have caught another entry. Stop loss 27 pips up, breaking even at 50 pips, another 100 pip move. So you can do this over and over again. Yes, a buy come here, but you're going to ignore that buy because the Willmajortrend is red. Now, yes, you could take those buys if you want to be aggressive, because when all the EMAs are underneath, it does go up, and it will go up almost 95% of the time. But if you want to stay within accuracy, trade only with the trend, that will be the biggest moves for you guys. So here, the Willmajortrend is red. Look what we get. We get a entry bands method. So the entry bands method. So we would have entered sniper entry, 27 pips stop, breaking even at 50, 100 pips is ours. So let's say if you missed that, but you notice that all the EMAs are above, and you notice that your Willmajortrend is red, and you missed the entry bands entry, then you're gonna enter when the Will Trincator closes red, and you're gonna put a 27 pip stop, breaking even at 50 pips, and 100 pips is yours. So remember, you have 3 type entries. The entry bands, divergence if you can spot it, and when the Will Trincator closes red. Those are 3 different entries that you're able to choose and how you want to do it. Okay, so again, you can do that if you want to. If you want to be aggressive, you can be aggressive, meaning taking buys in a downtrend. You can do that. But I would definitely suggest you take trending trades if you want accuracy every time. So here we get an arrow. Potential buys is coming up. It closes blue. So now we know we are only looking for what? Buys. It closes back red. So now we know we're only what? Looking for sales. So here, all the EMAs go above the Will Street. We don't see any divergence. We enter here when the Will Trincator closes red, and then we put our stop loss at 27 pips up, breaking even at 50 pips, and then we can see 100 pips came in and hit. So after 100 pips hit, look how the market gave you another sell. This happens all day long. This is the 5-minute time frame. You want to do this on a 5-minute time frame. Yes, you can use it on higher time frames, but if you want more setups accurately, then you want to do it on a 5-minute time frame. So here it is. All the EMAs go above. We would have entered here. Let's see if this would have been a loss. Yes, that would have been a loss. So you lost 1%. Remember, you're not panicking that you lost 1% because you understand the risk management is for 1 to 4. So it is okay to lose one trade. It's okay to lose one trade. You will make 3% or more or 2% or more depending on how the market reacts. So understand that risk management is what's going to keep you in the game and keep you profitable, and you're not caring about your losses because you understand this is a 1 to 4 trade. Every time I take it, I'm risking 27 pips for 100 pips every time I enter the market. I'm okay with one loss, two losses, even three losses. I'm okay with that. So that would have been a loss, right? So we would have entered again after the loss when the Wiltshire indicator closes red, and would have entered here with a 27 pip stop loss. Again, we almost got stopped out, but remember, we have to break even win when we get to 50 pips. So this would have been a winning trade. It came 2 pips almost knocking you out, but the stop loss held up. It's the reason why I put 27 pips. So that would have been a win. So we lost one trade, the first trade, then we won the second trade. Amazing, beautiful. So here again, we understand the Will Major trend is still red. So every time these EMAs go above the Will Street here, we know that we're taking that sell and the trade will be massive because we're going with the trend. So every time this sell comes, we already know that it will be a massive sell because the Will Major trend is red. So we only want to take selling trades because that would be the most massive trades. So we can see here, it hit the entry bands. That would have been my entry with a 27 pip stop. I would have broke even at 50 pips. 100 pips would have been mine. But if you didn't enter off the entry bands, you would have to enter off of Divergence. That was Divergence. Yep, that was Divergence. Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't Divergence. But you would have entered here when the Wiltshire indicator closed red, 27 pip stop, breaking even at 50, 100 pips was yours. So you understand the massive of this. So you guys can see the accuracy. So right here, it closes blue. So we're already aware that it's all buys. It closes back red. So we're already aware that it is still sells. So here you would have taken this sell because all the EMAs went above. So you still stay true to the game. Now I know you guys might be like, well, no, this is not a setup because it was red when it went above and it never closed back blue red. So here it closes blue and it closes back red. So you already aware that it's all sales. All the EMAs are above. Here it goes back blue, then back red. So this will be an entry. This will be your entry here. Sniper entry, 27 pips up, breaking even at 50 pips, 100 pips is smash. So this Will Major trend actually keeps you updated on what the overall trend is, and it keeps you from making unnecessary trades. Okay, it'll keep you from that. So here it goes above. Our entry would have been here. 27 pips stop loss, breaking even at 50 pips, and this most likely would have been a break even hit right here. So here we can see we got the arrow, it closes blue. So now we know it is all buys. We already know the trend is up now. It is all buys. We catch a nice entry band setup here when all the EMAs went underneath and it came down and hit this entry band. That would have been a sniper entry for us. Breaking even at 50 pips. Did it do 50 pips? So yeah, we would have been broke even here. But understand, if you missed that, your entry would have been here on these two bars, and your stop loss would have held up, and you would have actually caught the 100 pip move. But if it would have came back and broke you even on the entry bands, you would have noticed all the EMAs are still underneath, and you would have got back in right down here in this area, which still would have been a successful trade. If you missed that, you would have got back in here when the Wiltshire indicator closes blue, and it still would have been a successful 100 pip trade. So you guys can see every trade that I've went through was wins. You know why they're wins? Because it's with the trend. Okay, all these are wins. All these are wins. Every last one of them are wins. Every last trades are wins. So you guys can see when the Wiltshire indicator closes, when the Will Major trend closes red and it turns blue, you ignore that. You ignore this sell because the Wiltshire indicator is not red. So you have to ignore that. So here, none of these are setups. None of these are setups. None of these are setups. And the reason why none of these are setups is because it's not the same color. This is a buy setup, okay? That is a buy setup. Entry could have been down here. That would have been a break-even trade, though. It would have been a break-even trade. And you guys can just see, it is super, super easy. This would have been an entry somewhere down here. That would have been a win, even if you entered. And the reason why you're entering this buy because it's blue and it's all the EMAs are underneath. So when all the EMAs went underneath, you would have noticed, wow, I'm underneath my entry bands. That means your entry will be sniper as hell if you ever catch a setup like this. And you can see break even 50 pips, 100 pips is hit. If you missed that, it still would have been 100 pips for you. So as long as you stick with these rules, you are good to go. Literally, look, it turns red. You already have the knowledge. I'm taking sales only, and you guys can see the accuracy of the Willmajortrend. It is super, super accurate when you use it with my rules, easy money. So you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. This video shouldn't be long, but I want to make sure I'm going over the rules exactly the same so you guys understand. So remember, when this is blue, you're only looking for buys when all the EMAs go underneath. So yes, it turns blue here, but you can clearly see the EMAs did not go underneath. Hold on 1 second, guys. 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. But I'm doing went underneath, but the world indicator was already blue, so we ignored that. Here, all the EMAs go underneath, and then that is a setup to buy. That is a setup to buy. Your entry would be here with a 27 pip stop, breaking even at 50 pips, 100 pips is yours. So understanding those rules is what's going to stop you for taking unnecessary trades. Here is also an entry. All the EMAs go underneath while your Willmajortrend is still blue. So your entry would have been somewhere down here, sniper ass entry. Breaking even at 50 pips, 100 pips is yours. If you miss the entry band setup, then you're going to enter when the Willmajortrend closes blue with a stop loss of 27 pips. Even here, still with 100 pips, smash. So you guys can see how easy it is to do this. It's super, super easy. All the EMAs go underneath here. Your entry would have been here. Breaking even at 50 pips, 100 pips is yours. So right there, you only have the entry bands set up because the Willmajortrend was already blue. So it wasn't really anything to get in that trade. Understanding that all the prices underneath the entry band. So that's what would have only got you in that buy. So like I say, it's super, super easy. Here it is again. All the EMAs go underneath about right here. So your entry would have been this candle here with a 27 pip stop, breaking even at 50 pips, hitting the take profit. And if you missed the entry bands, your entry would have been here on the double bar of the Willmajortrend, breaking even at 50 pips, still almost hitting that mark 98 pips. So I would have got out the moment I saw rejection. So that would have probably been a 90 pip take profit for me. Well, for me, that would have been a winning trade because I always enter at my entry bands. I always do that. So here's again another buy. We would have entered down here and with a 27 pip stop, breaking even at 50, and this would have been a winning trade. If you missed the entry band setup, you would have entered when the bar closes blue, which would have been right here, breaking even at 50 pips, and it still would have been, let's see, 100 pip take profit. So you guys can see, as long as you're following the Willmajortrend, is going to get you in the market every single time. So like I say, practice this video, go over the rules over and over again, and you will be fine. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I got you guys. Again, this will get you funded, and it works on any pair. The only job that you have to find on another pair is the stop loss. Every time you see the setup, what is the stop loss for that pair? Because every stop loss is not the same. So you have to go and do your homework on how many times it does this in drawdown when this setup comes, and then you have the accurate stop loss, and then you get the accurate TP. So again, if you guys got all the answers, if you guys got all the questions, I got all the answers. Let's eat.